The screaming woke Adam Brennan before dawn, followed by a silence so complete it made his heart stop. And when he stumbled into the bedroom, he found his wife dead and two tiny infants wailing beside her still body. His hands shook as he reached for the babies, their cries piercing the gray light filtering through the curtains of their small ranch house outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was May 1884, and the world had just collapsed around him. Margaret had been alive when he went to sleep, uncomfortable but alive, and now she was gone. The midwife had left hours ago, saying everything was fine, that the twins were healthy and Margaret just needed rest. But something had gone wrong in the night, something Adam did not understand and would never understand. He picked up the first baby, then realized he could not leave the other one crying, so he awkwardly gathered both of them against his chest. They were so small, impossibly small, their faces red and scrunched. A boy and a girl, Margaret had whispered before he fell asleep. She had been smiling then, exhausted but happy. Now that smile would never come again. The ranch hand, Carlos, found him an hour later, still holding the babies, staring at Margaret's peaceful face. Carlos took one look and rode for town, returning with the doctor who could do nothing but confirm what Adam already knew. Heart failure, the doctor said quietly. Sometimes it happened after childbirth. There was nothing anyone could have done. The next 3 days passed in a blur of funeral arrangements and failed attempts at feeding the twins. Adam knew nothing about babies. Margaret had been preparing for months, reading books borrowed from the general store, talking to other mothers in town, but Adam had figured that was women's work. He would provide, protect, work the ranch. Margaret would handle everything else. Now, everything else was 2 screaming infants who refused the cow's milk he tried to give them, who needed changing every few hours, who seemed determined to cry in shifts so he could never rest. He buried Margaret on a hill overlooking the ranch, under an oak tree where they had sat together watching sunsets. The preacher said words Adam did not hear. People from town brought food Adam did not eat. And through it all, the babies cried. By the 4th day, Adam was desperate. He had not slept more than an hour at a time. The babies would not stop crying. He had tried everything he could think of, but they kept refusing the milk, their little faces growing more pinched and pale. He needed help. He needed a woman who knew about babies, a wet nurse or something. But he lived 10 miles from town, and the few ranch wives in the area had their own families to tend. He was mixing another batch of milk, his eyes burning with exhaustion, when he heard the knock on the door. At first, he thought he imagined it. Nobody came out this far without reason, and he was not expecting anyone. But the knock came again, firm and steady. Adam left the crying babies in their cradle, a wooden thing he had made with his own hands months ago when the world still made sense, and opened the door. A woman stood on his porch, travel-worn and dusty, with a carpetbag at her feet. She was young, perhaps 25 or 26, with dark blonde hair pulled back in a practical bun and gray-green eyes that took in his haggard appearance with one swift glance. Her dress was simple, brown and sturdy, the kind made for traveling rather than impressing. She was pretty in an understated way, with a straight nose and full lips, but what struck Adam most was the determined set of her jaw. "You are Adam Brennan?" she asked. Her voice was steady, educated. "Yes." His own voice came out as a croak. "Who are you?" "My name is Eleanor Zimmer. I heard in town that you lost your wife and were left with newborn twins. I am here to help." Adam blinked, trying to make his exhausted brain work. "I do not know you." "No, you do not. But I know about babies, and from the sound of things, you need help immediately." She picked up her bag without waiting for an invitation and stepped past him into the house. The baby's cries filled the room, and she set her bag down, already moving toward the cradle. "How old are they?" "4 days." Adam followed her, bewildered. "Madam, I cannot just let a stranger into my house." "Yes, you can, because if you do not, these babies might die." Eleanor bent over the cradle, her hands already reaching for the nearest twin, the girl. She lifted the baby with practiced ease, checking her over quickly. "When did they last eat?" "I have been trying to give them milk, but they will not take much." "Cow's milk?" She looked up at him sharply. "Yes. That is part of the problem. It is too thick for newborns. You need to dilute it with water and add a tiny bit of sugar. But even then, it is not ideal." She held the baby girl against her shoulder, swaying slightly, and the crying quieted just a fraction. "These babies need a wet nurse, Mr. Brennan." "I know that. But there is not one available out here." Eleanor was quiet for a moment, still swaying with the baby. Then she looked at him directly, those gray-green eyes unflinching. "I can nurse them." Adam felt his face heat. "You have a child." "I lost a baby 3 months ago, but I still have milk." She said it matter-of-factly, without emotion, though Adam saw something flicker in her eyes. "I came to Tulsa to start over. I heard about your situation at the general store yesterday when I arrived. I thought perhaps we could help each other." "Help each other how?" "I need a place to stay, a new start. You need someone to care for these babies." She shifted the baby girl to her other shoulder. "Let me be their mother, Mr. Brennan. Let me stay here and raise them. In return, I will have a home, safety, and children to love." Adam stared at her. The proposition was insane. She was a complete stranger. But the baby in her arms had stopped crying, and the boy in the cradle was starting to quiet too, as if sensing a competent presence in the room. "You want to just move in here, with a man you do not know." "I want to save these babies' lives. Everything else we can figure out." Eleanor met his gaze steadily. "I am a respectable woman, Mr. Brennan, but I am also a practical one. I have no family, no prospects, and no desire to remarry. I loved my husband deeply, and he died 6 months ago. Our baby followed him 3 months later. I have nothing left to lose and everything to give. These babies need me. That is enough. I cannot pay you much." "I do not want pay. I want a home and children to raise, that is all." She paused. "I know this is irregular. I know you have no reason to trust me. But look at them, Mr. Brennan. Look at your children. They are starving." Adam looked. He saw his daughter, finally quiet in this stranger's arms. He saw his son, whose crying had reduced to whimpers. He thought of Margaret, who would want her babies to live no matter what it took. "All right," he said. "All right." Eleanor nodded once briskly. "Good. Now you are going to go to bed and sleep for at least 4 hours. I will tend the babies. When you wake, we will discuss the practical arrangements." When he started to protest, she cut him off. "You are dead on your feet, Mr. Brennan. You are no good to anyone like this. Go." It went against every instinct to leave his children with a stranger, but Adam found himself obeying. He stumbled to his bedroom, the one he had shared with Margaret, then changed direction and went to the spare room instead. He could not face that bed yet. He collapsed onto the narrow cot fully clothed and fell asleep before his head settled into the pillow. When he woke, the sun was high in the sky and the house was quiet. For a moment, panic seized him. Had he dreamed the woman? Had something happened to the babies? He lurched out of bed and into the main room. Eleanor sat in Margaret's rocking chair by the window, nursing one of the twins. The other slept peacefully in the cradle. She looked up when Adam appeared and put a finger to her lips. "They are both fed and changed," she said softly. "They took to nursing immediately. They were just hungry, poor things." Adam sank into a chair at the table, relief making him weak. "Thank you. You do not need to thank me. This is the arrangement." She looked down at the baby, a small smile on her face. It was the first real expression he had seen from her, and it transformed her features from merely pretty to something warmer. "What are their names?" Adam felt shame wash over him. "They do not have names yet. Margaret and I had not decided, and then after she died, I could not think straight enough to choose." Eleanor nodded. "Then we should name them. May I make a suggestion, please?" The girl could be Grace because she is a grace in dark times, and the boy could be Samuel, which means God has heard, because perhaps God heard your prayers and sent help. Grace and Samuel, Adam repeated. The names felt right, solid, and real. "Yes, thank you. You are welcome." The baby finished nursing, and Eleanor lifted her to her shoulder, patting her back gently until a small burp emerged. "There we go, little Grace." Adam watched her, this stranger who had walked into his life and taken charge so completely. "Why did you really come here, Miss Zimmer, Mrs. Zimmer?" she corrected gently. "I am a widow, and I told you the truth. I heard you needed help, and I needed a purpose. When my daughter died, I wanted to die too. I thought about it more than once. But then I realized that was not what Thomas would have wanted, what little Anna would have wanted. So I packed up everything I owned and came west, looking for somewhere to start fresh. When I heard about you and the twins, it felt like Providence." "Where are you from?" "St. Louis. My husband owned a printing shop. We were not wealthy, but we were comfortable." She settled Grace back in the cradle and reached for Samuel, who was starting to fuss. "When they both died, I could not bear to stay there anymore. Everything reminded me of them. I am sorry for your loss, and I for yours." She began nursing Samuel, her movements confident and natural. "Your wife must have been a good woman to inspire such devotion." "She was the best woman I ever knew." Adam felt his throat tighten. "We met 5 years ago in Kansas. I was driving cattle north and she was visiting her aunt. She was a school teacher, smart as a whip. She could have married someone better than a cowboy trying to build a ranch, but she chose me. Then she saw something in you worth choosing." They fell into silence, but it was not uncomfortable. Adam found himself watching Eleanor with the baby, seeing the gentle competence in every movement, the way she instinctively knew what to do. She had meant it when she said she knew about babies. Over the next week, they established a routine. Eleanor took over all care of the twins, feeding them every few hours, changing them, settling them when they cried. Adam handled the ranch work, tending the small herd of cattle, fixing fences, managing the 2 horses and handful of chickens. They shared meals, brief affairs where Eleanor would heat up whatever food the town ladies had brought or make simple dishes from the pantry supplies. They spoke little at first, both lost in their own grief, both adjusting to this strange new arrangement. But gradually, conversations began to emerge. Adam learned that Eleanor had been educated at a female seminary, that she loved reading and missed having books around. He learned that her husband had been 10 years older than her, that they had been married for 3 years before he contracted pneumonia and died within a week. He learned that baby Anna had been born small and weak, that Eleanor had fought for 3 months to keep her alive before finally losing the battle. Eleanor learned that Adam was 28, that he had been working as a cowhand since he was 15, that he had saved for years to buy this land and start his own ranch. She learned that he and Margaret had been deliriously happy, that they had wanted a large family, that this ranch was supposed to be the foundation of generations to come. She learned that he was lost without his wife, that he had no idea how to be a father, that he was terrified of failing his children. 2 weeks after Eleanor arrived, the practical question of their living arrangement finally came to a head. They were sitting at the table after dinner, the twins asleep in their cradle when Eleanor brought it up. "Mr. Brennan, we need to discuss something. Please call me Adam. Mr. Brennan makes me feel like my father." "All right, Adam." She folded her hands on the table. People in town are going to talk. A single woman living with a widower, it is not proper. I am not sure if you have noticed, but I have not gone into town since I arrived. I know what they will say. Adam had noticed, actually. He had made the trip to town twice for supplies, and both times he had gotten curious looks and a few questions about the woman people had seen arriving at his ranch. He had kept his answers brief, but the gossip would start soon if it had not already. "What do you suggest?" he asked. Eleanor took a breath. "I think we should marry." Adam felt like he had been kicked by a horse. "What? A marriage of convenience," she clarified quickly. "Not a real marriage, just one on paper. It would give me respectability and give the twins a mother in the eyes of the community. We would continue as we have been, separate rooms, separate lives essentially, just sharing the household and raising the children together." "That is not a small thing you are proposing." "I know, but I have been thinking about it and I do not see another solution, unless you want me to leave." "No." The word came out faster than he intended. "No, the twins need you, I need you. This ranch would have fallen apart without your help. Then we need to make this arrangement legitimate. I am not trying to trap you into anything, Adam. I do not expect or want a real marriage. I am still in love with my husband and you with your wife. But we can be partners in raising these children. We can be friends, perhaps, in time. And we can give Grace and Samuel the stability they need." Adam thought about it. The idea of marrying another woman so soon after Margaret's death felt wrong, almost like a betrayal. But Eleanor was right. The arrangement as it stood could not continue without damage to her reputation and possibly his. And the twins did need her. He could see how they thrived under her care, how they were already growing stronger and more alert. "It would be a legal marriage?" he asked. "Yes, but we could agree between ourselves on the terms. Separate bedrooms, no expectations of intimacy. A partnership focused on the children and the ranch. And if one of us wants to leave someday," Eleanor's expression flickered, "then we will deal with that if it happens. But I can tell you honestly, I have no intention of leaving. This is my home now, these are my children now. I am committed to staying." "All right," Adam said slowly. "If you are sure this is what you want, then yes, we will marry." The relief on Eleanor's face was obvious. "Thank you. I think this is the right decision." They married 3 days later in a simple ceremony at the small church in Tulsa, with the preacher and 2 witnesses from town. Adam wore his best shirt, and Eleanor wore a simple blue dress she had made herself. There was no celebration, no joy. It was a transaction, a practical solution to a difficult problem. But as they signed the marriage certificate, Adam caught Eleanor's eye and saw a flicker of something there. Gratitude, perhaps, or relief. Or maybe just the acknowledgement that they were both doing their best in an impossible situation. The town gossip quieted after that. A quick remarriage was unusual but not unheard of, especially for a man left with infants. Some of the town ladies visited, bringing more food and offering congratulations that felt hollow. But Eleanor handled them all with perfect politeness, accepting their curiosity without revealing anything real about the arrangement. Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm. Adam worked the land from dawn until dusk, slowly building up the herd, repairing buildings, planning for the future. Eleanor ran the household, cared for the twins, and began making small improvements to the house. She planted a garden with seeds she bought in town. She sewed new curtains for the windows. She organized the pantry and began cooking proper meals again now that the food from the town ladies had run out. They were polite to each other, respectful. They shared information about the twins and the ranch business. But there was a wall between them, built of grief and strangeness and the awkwardness of their arrangement. They were not husband and wife, not really. They were two wounded people sharing a space, bound together by necessity and the needs of two tiny children. Summer arrived in full force, bringing heat that baked the Oklahoma plains and made the ranch work brutal. Adam spent his days sweating under the relentless sun and came back, each evening exhausted and dusty. Eleanor would have dinner ready, simple fare but filling, and they would eat while the twins dozed nearby, growing bigger and stronger every day. One evening in late June, Adam came back from town with a package wrapped in brown paper. He set it on the table in front of Eleanor without saying anything. She looked up from nursing Samuel, curiosity in her eyes. "What is this?" "Open it." She shifted the baby to one arm and carefully unwrapped the package. Inside were 3 books, their covers slightly worn but intact. Adam watched as her face transformed, the careful neutrality she usually wore falling away to reveal genuine delight. "You remembered," she whispered, running her hand over the top book's spine. "You said you missed having books around." These were all the general store had, but the shopkeeper said he could order more if you wanted. "Adam, this is." She looked up at him and he saw tears in her eyes. "Thank you, you did not have to do this." "I know, I wanted to." He felt awkward suddenly, unsure why he had done it beyond remembering the wistfulness in her voice when she talked about reading. "They are not much. They are everything." Eleanor set Samuel in the cradle and picked up the top book, opening it carefully. "I have not had anything new to read in months. This is incredibly kind of you." Something shifted between them that night. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was there. A crack in the wall, a tiny bridge built of paper and kindness. Eleanor began reading in the evenings after the twins were asleep, curled in the rocking chair with a lamp burning beside her. Adam would sit at the table, mending tack or sharpening tools, and sometimes she would read passages aloud. He found he liked listening to her voice, the way it brought the words to life. He had never been much of a reader himself, but hearing the stories through Eleanor made him understand why she loved it so much. They began talking more too, real conversations beyond just the necessities. Eleanor asked about his plans for the ranch, and Adam found himself explaining his vision, how he wanted to build something lasting. She listened with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions, offering suggestions that were actually useful. She understood business in a way Margaret never had, that practical mind of hers seeing opportunities and potential problems he had not considered. In turn, Adam asked about her life in St. Louis, and Eleanor slowly opened up. She spoke about the printing shop, about helping Thomas with the books, and sometimes even setting type. She spoke about the literary society she had belonged to, the friends she had left behind. She spoke, haltingly, about her pregnancy and how happy they had been, how certain she had been that everything would work out fine. "I keep wondering if I did something wrong," she admitted one night. "If there was something I could have done differently to save Anna." "The doctor said there was nothing you could have done," Adam reminded her gently. He had heard the story before. "Doctors say many things, but I am her mother. I should have been able to save her. I know that feeling. I keep thinking about Margaret, wondering if I should have noticed something was wrong, if I should have stayed awake, if I should have made her go to the doctor earlier." Eleanor looked at him, understanding in her eyes. "We cannot change the past. We can only do better with the second chance we have been given." "Is that what Grace and Samuel are? A second chance?" "I think so. For both of us." The twins were thriving under Eleanor's care. By the end of summer they were chubby and alert, beginning to smile and make cooing sounds. Grace was the calmer of the two, content to watch the world with wide blue eyes. Samuel was more demanding, crying louder and longer when he wanted something. But Eleanor handled both of them with patient skill, and Adam found himself amazed daily by her capability. He also found himself watching her more than he probably should. He noticed the way afternoon light caught in her hair when she hung laundry. He noticed how she hummed softly while cooking, unconscious melodies that made the house feel like a home. He noticed the way she smiled at the twins, the pure love in her expression, and felt grateful that his children had someone who cared for them so deeply. But he felt guilty for noticing. Margaret had been dead less than half a year. He had no business looking at another woman, even one who was technically his wife. So he tried to focus on work on the ranch, on anything that would keep him from thinking about Eleanor as anything other than the practical arrangement she was supposed to be. September brought a crisis that changed everything. Adam was out checking the fence line when one of his young steers got caught in a tangle of wire and barbed metal. In his rush to free the animal, Adam slipped and gashed his leg badly on the sharp wire. He managed to free the steer and limp back to the barn, but by the time he made it to the house, his pants were soaked with blood and the world was spinning. Eleanor took one look at him and went into action. She got him into a chair, cut away his pants leg, and examined the wound with a calmness that seemed impossible. "This needs stitching," she said. "Can you ride to town for the doctor? That would take 2 hours at least, and I am not sure I can ride." Even talking was making him dizzy. "Then I will have to do it myself." Eleanor was already moving, getting clean cloth and water, pulling out a needle and thread from her sewing kit. "I stitched Thomas up once when he cut his hand badly at the shop. It is not so different. I am not sure that is a good idea." "You are losing blood, Adam. We do not have a choice." She threaded the needle with steady hands, then looked him in the eye. "This is going to hurt. Do you have any whiskey?" He directed her to the bottle he kept in the cupboard, and she made him drink a large swallow before pouring some directly on the wound. The pain made him gasp, and he gripped the sides of the chair hard enough to make his knuckles white. Eleanor worked quickly, her stitches small and even. Adam watched her face as she worked, seeing the fierce concentration there, the determination. She did not flinch from the blood or the injury, just kept working until the wound was closed. "There," she said finally, tying off the last stitch. "That should hold. But you need to stay off that leg for at least a few days. No ranch work. I cannot just stop working. You can and you will. An infection could kill you, Adam, and then where would that leave me and the twins?" She began wrapping the leg with clean cloth. "Carlos can handle the essential work for a few days. Everything else can wait." He started to argue, then saw the look in her eyes. It was not just determination. It was fear. She was afraid of losing him, he realized. Not because she loved him, but because she could not bear to lose another person she depended on. "All right," he agreed quietly. "I will rest." The next 3 days were strange. Adam was not used to being idle, and staying in the house while Eleanor worked around him felt unnatural. But the leg throbbed whenever he put weight on it, reminding him that she had been right about resting. Eleanor brought him books to read, one of the ones he had bought her. She made him simple meals and changed his bandages twice a day, checking for any sign of infection. And in the hours between tasks, while the twins slept and the house was quiet, they talked more than they ever had before. Adam learned that Eleanor had always wanted to be a teacher, but her family had not had the money to send her for proper training. He learned that she had taught herself to sew and cook, that she was actually quite good at figures and had handled all the accounting for the printing shop. He learned that she had a dry sense of humor that caught him off guard and made him laugh for the first time since Margaret died. Eleanor learned that Adam had grown up on a small farm in Missouri, that his father had drunk too much, and his mother had died young. She learned that he had left home at 15 with nothing but a horse and a saddle, that he had worked his way across the West learning everything he could about cattle and ranching. She learned that he had always dreamed of having his own place, his own family, something stable and good that he could build with his own hands. On the third evening, while Eleanor was changing his bandage, she said something that surprised him. "You are a good man, Adam Brennan." He looked at her, kneeling beside his chair with her hands gentle on his leg. "What makes you say that? You took me in, a complete stranger, because I could help your children. You treat me with respect, even though this situation is strange for both of us. You work hard every day to build something good. You are exactly the kind of man I would want raising Grace and Samuel. I am just doing what needs to be done. So am I, but that does not make it less worthy." She finished tying the bandage and sat back on her heels. "I want you to know that I am grateful. I know this marriage is not what either of us wanted, but I am grateful that you agreed to it. You gave me a home when I had nowhere else to go. You gave me children to love when I thought I would never be a mother again. That means more than I can say." Adam found his throat tight. "You saved Grace and Samuel's lives. Any gratitude should run the other way." "Then perhaps we can just agree that we are both grateful and leave it at that." She smiled, and Adam felt something shift in his chest. When had Eleanor become beautiful to him? When had he started looking forward to their evening conversations, to the sound of her humming in the kitchen, to the sight of her holding his children? When had this arrangement of convenience started feeling like something more? He did not say any of this, just nodded and smiled back. But something had changed, and they both knew it. By October, Adam was fully healed and back to work. The ranch was doing well. The herd was growing, and he had plans to buy more land in the spring. Grace and Samuel were nearly 6 months old, sitting up on their own and babbling constantly. The house that had felt so empty and tragic in May now felt full of life. Adam and Eleanor had fallen into an easy partnership. They worked together smoothly, anticipating each other's needs, sharing the labor of ranch and household. They ate meals together, played with the twins together, sat together in the evenings. To anyone looking from the outside, they must have seemed like a normal married couple, but they still kept to separate bedrooms. They still maintained that careful distance, never touching beyond what was necessary, never speaking of anything too personal. They were friends, partners, but not husband and wife in the truest sense. Adam told himself he was content with that. He told himself he was still in love with Margaret, still grieving, still not ready for anything more. But late at night, lying alone in his bed, he found himself thinking about Eleanor. The way she laughed at something funny. The way she sang to the twins. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about something she cared about. He was lying to himself, and he was starting to know it. The realization that he was falling in love with Eleanor hit him one evening in early November. They were sitting by the fire after dinner, Eleanor reading while the twins played on a blanket between them. Samuel grabbed Grace's toy, and Grace immediately protested, her little face screwing up to cry. Eleanor scooped her up, making soothing noises while Adam retrieved the toy and gave it back. Grace immediately calmed, and Samuel grabbed Adam's finger instead, holding tight. "They are growing so fast," Eleanor said softly, bouncing Grace gently. "I can hardly believe they are the same tiny infants I met 6 months ago. That is because of you. You saved them. We saved them. Both of us." She looked at him over Grace's head. "They have a good father and a good mother." Something passed between them in that moment, something warm and significant. Adam felt his heart speed up. Eleanor's cheeks flushed slightly, and she looked away first, but not before he saw the answering awareness in her eyes. She felt it too. This thing growing between them, this shift from practical arrangement to something deeper. The question was what they were going to do about it. Adam decided he needed to talk to someone, and the only person he trusted enough was Carlos, his ranch hand. Carlos was older, maybe 50, with a wife and grown children of his own. He had worked for Adam since the beginning, and he was more friend than employee. They were mending fence together a few days later when Adam finally brought it up. "Carlos, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course, amigo." "How did you know you were in love with your wife?" Carlos looked at him, surprise flickering across his weathered face. Then understanding dawned. "Ah, the new senora. Is it that obvious to someone who knows you?" "Yes." Carlos hammered in a fence post, then leaned on it, considering his words. "With Maria, I knew when I realized I could not imagine my life without her in it, when the thought of her leaving made my chest hurt. When making her happy became more important than anything else." Adam absorbed this. "But what if you are supposed to still be in love with someone else? Your first wife, Margaret?" "Yes. Can I tell you something that might be hard to hear?" When Adam nodded, Carlos continued. "Margaret is gone. You will always love her. She gave you those beautiful babies and she was your first love, but she would not want you to be alone forever. She would not want you to deny yourself happiness out of loyalty to a memory." "How do you know what she would want?" "Because any woman who truly loved you would want you to live a full life, and because I saw the way you and Margaret were together. She was a generous soul. She would want you to be happy, even if that happiness is with someone else." Adam thought about that for a long time. What if Eleanor does not feel the same way? What if she just wants this to stay a practical arrangement? Then you have your answer. "But Adam, I have seen the way she looks at you when you are not paying attention. I do not think she wants to keep things as they are." That evening, Adam decided he needed to take a chance. After the twins were asleep, he found Eleanor in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner. "Eleanor, can we talk?" She turned, dishcloth in hand, curiosity on her face. "Of course. What is it?" Now that the moment was here, Adam found himself nervous. He had faced down angry cattle and dangerous storms without fear, but the thought of opening his heart to this woman terrified him. Still, he had to try. "I have been thinking about our arrangement," he began. Eleanor's expression shuddered immediately. "I see. Are you unhappy with how things are?" "No, the opposite, actually." He took a breath. "Eleanor, these past 6 months have been the hardest of my life, but they have also been something else. Working with you, living with you, raising the twins together, it has all been good, better than good. And I have realized something." She waited, her hands gripping the dishcloth tightly. "I have realized that I am falling in love with you. Maybe I have been for a while now, but I was too stubborn or too afraid to admit it." He saw her eyes widen, but pressed on. "I know this is not what we agreed to. I know you said you were still in love with your husband, and I understand if you want things to stay as they are. But I needed to tell you the truth. I do not want a marriage of convenience anymore, Eleanor. I want a real marriage with you, if you will have me." Eleanor stood frozen for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then, slowly, she set down the dishcloth and crossed the space between them. She stopped close enough that Adam could see the gold flecks in her gray-green eyes. "You are an idiot," she said, but her voice was soft, almost tender. "Do you know how long I have been waiting for you to say something like that?" Adam felt hope flare in his chest. "You feel the same way?" "Of course I do. I think I started falling for you that first week when you brought me those books. Nobody had done something that thoughtful for me in so long, and it made me realize what kind of man you really were." She reached up, tentatively touching his face. "I was in love with Thomas, and I will always treasure what we had. But he is gone and you are here, and somehow, impossibly, I have fallen in love again, with you, Eleanor." He said her name like a prayer, then did what he had been wanting to do for weeks. He kissed her. She melted into him, her arms coming up around his neck, and the kiss deepened. It was nothing like the chaste peck they had exchanged at their wedding ceremony. This was real, passionate, full of months of denied feelings finally allowed to surface. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eleanor laughed softly. That was worth waiting for. I should have said something sooner. We both should have. But we were both so busy protecting ourselves, protecting our memories, that we did not see what was right in front of us. She leaned her forehead against his. What now? Now we stop pretending. Now we make this marriage real in every way. He pulled back enough to see her face. If that is what you want, it is exactly what I want. They stood there holding each other for a long moment, and Adam felt something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe, or rightness. This was not a betrayal of Margaret. It was not forgetting or replacing her. It was allowing himself to live again, to love again, to build something new without destroying what came before. That night, Eleanor moved into Adam's room. They made love slowly, carefully, learning each other with patience and tenderness. It was different from anything Adam had experienced with Margaret, because Eleanor was different, but it was good. It was real. It was theirs. Afterward, lying in bed with Eleanor's head on his chest, Adam felt more complete than he had in months. He stroked her hair, still amazed that this was actually happening. "Are you all right?" Eleanor asked softly. "More than all right, are you?" "Yes, though I will admit I am a bit nervous." "About what?" "About messing this up somehow, about not being enough for you." Adam tilted her chin up so he could see her eyes. "You are more than enough. You are everything." She smiled, that genuine warm smile that transformed her whole face. "I love you, Adam Brennan. I love you, Eleanor Brennan." The winter that followed was the happiest Adam had experienced in years. He and Eleanor settled into their new relationship with the same easy partnership they had brought to everything else, but now with added depth and intimacy. They were not just partners raising children together. They were a married couple in love, building a life and a future. The twins continued to thrive. By Christmas, they were crawling everywhere, getting into everything, and starting to babble what sounded like actual words. Grace said something that sounded like "Mama" first, and Eleanor cried with joy. Samuel said "Dada" a few days later, and Adam felt his heart nearly burst. They celebrated Christmas simply, with a small pine tree that Adam cut and brought inside, and modest gifts they made for each other. Adam carved wooden toys for the twins. Eleanor made him a new shirt, every stitch perfect. They went to church on Christmas morning, presenting themselves to the town as the happy family they had become. In February, Eleanor realized she was pregnant. She told Adam one evening after the twins were asleep, nervous and excited all at once. "Are you sure?" Adam asked, pulling her into his arms. "As sure as I can be. I have missed 2 cycles now, and I am feeling the same way I did when I was pregnant with Anna. How do you feel about it?" She pulled back to look at him. "Terrified, but also happy. I want to have your child, Adam. I want to grow our family, but I am afraid. What if something goes wrong again? We will get the best doctor we can find. We will take every precaution, and we will face whatever comes together." He kissed her forehead. "But I believe everything will be fine. You are strong and healthy, and we will make sure you stay that way." Eleanor nodded, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Together. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Eleanor felt well, better than she had with Anna. The doctor in town, an older man with decades of experience, examined her regularly and pronounced everything normal. Still, Adam watched her like a hawk, not quite able to shake the fear that history would repeat itself. Grace and Samuel turned 1 year old in May 1885. Eleanor made a cake, and they celebrated with Carlos and his wife Maria, who had become close friends. The twins were walking now, tottering around the house and keeping Eleanor constantly busy. She was starting to show with the new baby, her belly rounding under her apron. "You ever think about Margaret?" Eleanor asked one night as they lay in bed. The question surprised Adam. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Less now than I used to." "Why?" "I just want you to know that it is all right if you do. I do not expect you to forget her. She was important to you and she gave you Grace and Samuel. I would never want you to feel like you cannot think about her." Adam gathered Eleanor closer. "Thank you for understanding that. I do think about her sometimes, usually when I look at the twins and see her in their faces. But it does not hurt the way it used to. Now it is more like a sweet memory, something to treasure but not something that defines me." He paused. "I think about Thomas sometimes too." "Do you?" "I wonder if he would approve of me, if he would be glad that you are happy." "He would. Thomas was a good man, and he loved me enough to want me to have a full life. I think he would be glad I found you, glad I found love again." She laced her fingers with his. "We are allowed to move forward, Adam. We are allowed to be happy. That does not diminish what we had before. It just means we are brave enough to build something new." "When did you get so wise?" "When I realized life is too short to waste on guilt and what-ifs." In September, as the Oklahoma summer finally started to cool, Eleanor went into labor. This time, Adam was prepared. The doctor was already staying in town, waiting for the call. Maria came to watch Grace and Samuel. And Adam stayed by Eleanor's side through the whole thing, holding her hand, encouraging her, refusing to leave even when the doctor suggested it. It was different from Margaret's delivery. Eleanor labored for hours, but everything progressed normally. She was tired and in pain, but she was strong. And when the baby finally came, a healthy boy with a strong cry, both Adam and Eleanor wept with relief and joy. They named him Thomas Andrew Brennan, honoring both Eleanor's first husband and Adam's middle name. Tommy, they called him, and he was perfect. Dark hair like Adam, Eleanor's gray-green eyes, and a temperament that seemed easy even from the start. Grace and Samuel were fascinated by their new brother, wanting to touch him constantly. Adam and Eleanor had to watch them carefully to make sure they were gentle, but it was clear the twins loved their new sibling. "We have 3 children," Eleanor said wonderingly one evening, nursing Tommy while Grace and Samuel played at her feet. "Somehow we went from 2 grieving strangers to a family of 5. Adam sat beside her, one arm around her shoulders. "Best decision I ever made, letting you walk through that door and into my life. Best decision I ever made walking through it." Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm with 3 children. It was busier, more chaotic, but infinitely richer. Adam expanded the ranch, buying more land and cattle, building up something substantial that would last for generations. Eleanor managed the household with the same competent skill she brought to everything, and somehow also found time to teach Grace and Samuel their letters and numbers. The years passed in a blur of work and love and family. Grace grew into a thoughtful, serious child who loved books as much as Eleanor did. Samuel was more adventurous, always getting into things, keeping them all on their toes. Tommy was the easy one, happy and adaptable, content to tag along with his older siblings. In the spring of 1888, Eleanor told Adam she was pregnant again. This time there was less fear, more joy. Their family was growing and they welcomed it. The baby came in December, a girl they named Anna Margaret Brennan, honoring both the daughter Eleanor had lost and Adam's first wife. It felt right, bringing their pasts into their present, acknowledging what came before while celebrating what they had now. Annie, as they called her, had Margaret's blonde hair and Eleanor's quick smile. She was doted on by all of her older siblings, especially Grace, who took her role as big sister very seriously. One evening, when Annie was about 6 months old, Adam found Eleanor sitting in the rocking chair by the window, the same chair where she had nursed Grace and Samuel that first day she arrived. She was nursing Annie, gazing out at the sunset, and there was such peace on her face that Adam had to stop and just look at her. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. She looked up, smiling. "Just how strange life is. 4 years ago, I came to this ranch planning to die inside, planning to just go through the motions of living while taking care of your babies. I thought I would never be truly happy again. And now I am happier than I ever imagined I could be. I have a husband I love, children who are my whole world, a home that feels like it was always meant to be mine." She reached out her free hand to him, and he took it. "I am so grateful I walked through that door, Adam. So grateful you let me stay." He bent and kissed her, slow and sweet. "I am the grateful one. You gave me back my life. You gave Grace and Samuel a mother. You gave me love when I thought I was done with it forever. We saved each other." Yes, we did. As the years continued to pass, the ranch prospered. Adam and Carlos expanded the operation, hiring more hands, building more buildings. The house grew too, with Adam adding rooms to accommodate their growing family. Grace, Samuel, Tommy, and Annie were joined by 2 more children over the next several years, Jonathan in 1890 and Elizabeth in 1892. 6 children, a thriving ranch, and a love that had started as convenience and grown into something deep and lasting. Adam and Eleanor had built a life neither of them could have imagined that desperate day when she walked through his door. The twins, Grace and Samuel, grew into capable young adults who helped run the ranch. Grace married a nice young man from town, a school teacher like Margaret had been, and Samuel took over more of the ranch operations, showing a natural aptitude for the work. Tommy was quieter, more interested in books and learning, and Adam and Eleanor encouraged him to pursue education beyond what was available locally. Annie, Jonathan, and Elizabeth were still young, still growing, still full of potential. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Adam and Eleanor took a rare evening to themselves, sitting on the porch and watching the sunset while the older children managed the younger ones inside. "You ever regret it?" Adam asked, "saying yes to this crazy arrangement?" Eleanor laughed, the sound warm and rich. "Not for a single moment, do you?" "Never. Marrying you was the second best decision of my life." "What was the first?" "Opening the door when you knocked." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. The sounds of their children drifted through the open windows, laughter and conversation and life. "I love you," Eleanor said softly, "more than I can ever express." "I love you too. Thank you for being their mother. Thank you for being my wife. Thank you for building this life with me. Always, Adam. Always." As darkness fell and the stars began to emerge, Adam thought about the journey that had brought them here. The tragedy and loss that had seemed insurmountable. The stranger who had appeared when he needed her most. The slow building of trust and friendship that had transformed into love. The family they had created together, blending past and present into something new and precious. Margaret would always be a part of him, the mother of his first children, his first love. And Thomas would always be a part of Eleanor, the father of her lost daughter, her first husband. But they had learned that the human heart had an infinite capacity for love, that honoring the past did not mean being trapped by it, that new beginnings could arise from old sorrows. Inside the house, Annie called for her mother, and Eleanor rose to go to her. Before she opened the door, she looked back at Adam, love shining in her eyes. He smiled at her, this woman who had saved him in every way a person could be saved, and she smiled back. They had both been broken once. But together, they had made each other whole. Together, they had built something beautiful and lasting. Together, they had created not just a family, but a home filled with love and laughter and hope. And as Adam followed Eleanor inside, into the warmth and light and noise of their full, happy house, he knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where he was meant to be. This was his life, his family, his forever. The children grew. The ranch thrived. And Adam and Eleanor loved each other more with every passing year, grateful every day for the chance encounter that had brought them together, for the courage it had taken to open their broken hearts to love again, and for the beautiful life they had built from the ashes of their grief. It was not the life either of them had planned, but it was perfect nonetheless.